Okay, so this is a very short theory video on how to animate a vehicle in motion. And there's lots of work in Soho and in general in work in the visual effects industry animating cars. And the car that we're going to choose for this exercise is a little yellow Beetle. And it's kind of a cartoony car, so it's kind of fun to do. I'm going to suggest that you follow the tutorial and then kind of go a little bit off-piste and have fun with it yourself. So the first thing to do with animating vehicles is to have a look on YouTube. Basically get an idea about what the kind of animation you might want to do. A car driving along, a car skidding, a car braking, a car sliding. What are you thinking of? What do you want to do? And look for reference. There's tons of animation and cars in action flicks and that kind of stuff, so that you can have a nice idea of what it is that you want to do with this, and then pretty closely match the reference, or at least use the reference to inform your animation so that it feels realistic and believable. Okay, so here's the rig. It's a little yellow Beetle, and it has the catchy name of Swappable Car Rig with Uber Shockey's The Any Car 3.14. It's by Aaron Parker, who's a very talented rigger and designer. And it's I guess the name of it really is Any Car 3.1.4. And you can find it here. That is the URL to find it. You can also just go to Creative Crash and enter the keywords Aaron Parker, and that will pull up his Any Car. And it's a nice little car. You can see here the things it can do. We can squash it, we can stretch it, we can open the boot, you can open the boot. You can also open the hood or the bonnet, as we say in England. All the various bits of the car and the doors as well. They all open up. So, of course, the first thing to do is open up the rig and familiarize yourself with it. Make sure you know what it does, and then imagine how an old kind of cartoony jalopy might travel. And I'm going to suggest it's going to kind of bump and grind and kind of chug along in a kind of cartoony way. What we're doing is we're really creating a car in a way for a kind of children's TV series, kind of Ivor the Engine or Thomas the Tank Engine kind of car. And what we're going to animate is a slow 24-frame chug cycle. So the car is going to go chug, 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 chug like that. So the first thing you want to do is import the rig. As always, create a new project in Maya, then set to it, and set your timeline from 101 to 125, because we're going to make a 24-frame cycle. Then the next thing to do is to select the squash control on the top of the car. And you'll find that when you turn on the controls on the car, you'll see it at the top of the car. It's a little sort of pointed star. And that's what you use to keyframe the car. And the motion of the up and down motion of the car is going to be like this. Up at frame 101, down at 104, up at 107, down at 110, up at 113. So it's kind of going chug, 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 chug like that. When you've done that, you can either carry on up to 125 or just copy and paste that curve and paste them at 113. So you've got animation going from 101 to 125. Then the next thing we're going to do is select the move control. That's the kind of pointy arrow at the front of the car. And what we want is for the car to roll from side to side. So frame 101, roll the car to the right. Frame 113, roll the car to the left. Frame 125, back to the right again. And you can see that this is a slower timing. So the car is going to be going up and down, chug, 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 but it's going to be rolling slowly 1000 to 1000 from side to side. And you can then basically take this curve. Actually, the curve you probably want to copy is the main squash control curve. And then you can paste that onto each wheel of the car, because you can animate the wheels of these cars as well. So that the wheels then bump up and down. You then turn on your infinity curves, grab the translate Y control on the wheels, and just offset them a little bit so they're not all going up and down at exactly the same time. Scale those curves to make sure it all feels right, and then we go on to part 2 of the exercise, which is to animate the car in motion. For some reason the end of motion has disappeared there, not quite sure why, but that's our next bit, is to take our cycle, which we've animated, and then put it in a context, put it in a scene. And what I'd suggest you do is go to a website like TurboSquid or the free 3dmodels.com, download a set, maybe a shopping mall, a street, a space station, wherever you want your car to be. whatever the idea is that you've got for this car, and then import that into your shot. Obviously then move your car into position. You're going to have to scale the set so that the sizes of the car and the set match. The set will be much easier to scale than the car. Most free rigs are not scalable. They tend to break. The car is certainly no exception to that rule. So you want to scale your set, not the car. Now I'm going to suggest a 4-second shot. It could be more if you want, but that's a nice size, so that's the one I'm suggesting. So then you want to create a camera. You always want to animate to camera. And imagine the scene in your head. You know, what kind of scene is it? Are you going to have a big wide establishing shot where you slowly dolly in on the car? Is it going to be like a start on a close-up and then pull out to reveal the scene? You know, you're the filmmaker, so you imagine what's going to happen. Then finally, I'll show you how to bake out your curves. All of this stuff is in the tutorial, and that is basically, baking out means taking all of these, because remember we've created a cycle, a 24-frame cycle, but we've expanded our shot to 4 seconds. So what we've got to do is bake out our curves so that you've got keyframes on every frame, or nearly every frame. And then the last thing to do is to bring the car to a halt. And that's what I want you to do, is do something like animate the car coming to a halt. Maybe it goes into a skid. Maybe I wouldn't animate it rolling over or anything like that because that'd be too complicated. But, you know, maybe it skids to a halt. Maybe it kind of slightly tips up in the air. Maybe there's a screech of tires. You know, you can be quite imaginative with this stuff, and you can have quite a lot of fun with it. So it is a nice little rig. I should add one word of warning: it is not an especially stable rig. So do make sure you save your work often, and be aware that funny things can happen on the rig. It can be a little bit frustrating. But anyway, enjoy the yellow car animation. Enjoy the tutorials, the total tutorials. I think there's about 30 minutes of tutorials there, and I hope you have fun with it.